knowing him.
Thank you. I hereby declare you retrenched. And I will exercise all the powers of a chairman, and all MCs must obey rules and regulations of this business. Let me, Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Alhaji Hassan Sunmonu. I want a round of applause for that. And I can see that your national honor is OON. In my humble opinion, and I think Labour should take this on board, given the pioneering role you played and how you mobilize and inculcate those sense of discipline and the fighting spirit, and you were truly the other president of the productive forces, I think the least you ought to have is CFR. We should fight for that, because recently in the National Assembly, there was a fight and somebody was giving concession. We will not agonize over it, we will fight for it. Let me also appreciate with profound respect your authentic comrade, the one at home, the one that assured that at 85, you look the way you're looking. Someone that, by your looks, suggests that he has better skills than those who are doing turnaround maintenance of NNPC. Well, I saw you still walking the way you used to walk into Makelimudu Hall, where we are about to take those militant decisions. I'm speaking of your wife, our comrade, our sister, our mother, Mrs. Hassan Sunmonu. Let me appreciate a rare man of God who, the first time I met him, I was working in a textile factory in Kaduna, and there was an event at Doba Hotel, which was for big people, and we were told we were going to have a seminar. And he walked in, and it was called, he said, Hassan Kukah. Kukah means crying, but he wasn't crying. And the Hassan is a Muslim, and he is a Catholic priest. And I sat there, as we always do as workers, to listen to big people speak. By the time he finished, I went home, I told my wife, I have met someone who I do not know how to describe him. Extremely brilliant, simple. On that occasion, he spoke on a small matter, Mother Teresa, telling us how individual, what person can make an impact in society. And by the time he analyzed what Mother Teresa stood for, you can see a whole dissertation can be written. And the choice of words, the way he weaved them, even as he wear a smile, even when he seems to be unhappy with the issues happening around him, I told my wife, why should this man be a priest? My wife said, because you are a pagan. That's why you told that. You are not a pagan. How can you say the fact of his brilliance, he should do something else? Who told you that men of God shouldn't be very brilliant people? I have since done my confession, as we do in the Catholic Church, and I know I'm forgiven. I want to personally, especially recognize our Lord, who is entitled for us to be described as authentic comrade Bishop Hassan Kukah, the voice of the people. Recently, I had an interaction with the Nigeria Bar Association. We're discussing whether or not there should be death penalty for kidnappers or terrorism, etc. And in my opening remark, I said, if I am not a COVID today, and if I was a COVID, Hassan, you will be able to bring me out of the prison. I said it's courtesy of the brilliance and courage of some members of the Nigeria Bar Association. Otherwise, I've caused so much trouble and charged to court million times, including contempt of court. And there were two people who were leading the squad to defend me pro bono. I'm so excited and happy to see here with us, and I'm not surprised about that, the People's Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Comrade Femi Falana. By the way, time is terrible. It's very good, it's terrible. The first time I saw Falana was on arrival hall from Nigeria Airways in Lagos, Ikeja. I saw a young man with three full beard like Karl Marx. But his beards were better polished, but he didn't wear the kind of three-piece suit of Karl Marx. And I was told that is Femi Falana. Then I didn't, myself, I'm trying to understand my environment. Not knowing that he's the one who will save me from being jailed by Justice OBJ, who was Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, for disobeying a court order, and also Justice Alabi in Lagos, who issued what I choose to describe as black market injunction to stop a Nigerian workers' train from moving. And we went to court with the late Ganifa Himi to defend me, and as you can see, the matter was adjourned sine die. It's still pending, but Justice Alabi has retired, but I am not tired, and the matter is still pending. So, very Falana, I can never thank you enough. Those bills that we didn't perfect, God will perfect them for you. I'm also excited to see one of my predecessors, the second-time predecessor, who rebuilt this union, which used to be one of the weakest athletes of the NLC, the Medical and Health Workers Union, to a level that it became one of the strongest athletes of the NLC, and who gave me all the support, huge support, and in particular the day he left Abuja at night to go and deliver my form or something in Benin to enable me contest for governorship, and give me all the moral, logistic, and personal support. Comrade Wamba, former president of the Nigeria Labour Congress. I hope the Labour people are going to come, but I understand we have the president of ASU. I met him recently at the National Assembly. We tried to redefine a couple of issues. Yes, I can see you in red. The revolution is on. The president of ASU, please give him a round of applause. And all the other ASU leaders to provide us with the intellectual base to rationalize and justify what we do so that we don't feel inadequate intellectually to deal with complex micro and macroeconomic issues. Allow me to just acknowledge the presence of everybody, including ADG. I don't know how he's managing it, but he insists on being comrade. He can rehearse the Holy Quran as he just did effortlessly. And a chief imam in his own right, Comrade Issa Aremu. He is the one who was actually, if my memory is correct, our president, Hassan Sunmonu, CFR, decided to recruit young, brilliant, progressive graduates from different universities. And in the process, someone like Issa Aremu, who fought so hard in ABU, and in the process he was prosecuted, which he deserved. If you disturb the system, you must be ready for the punishment. And he has to escape to Port Harcourt, where he met another rugged lecturer, Claude Ake, who now even polished him much more and inculcated a dosage of radical thoughts. and what we must do to create an alternative society. And as the union will say, from the ashes of the old, how a new world can be born. And it came up, we graduated, we fly colors, and became even much more radical. So radical that it couldn't escape the attention of our president. And they were all recruited into the NLC along with some other young graduates, so that NLC could have people like me who are just factory workers and people like Isa who are intellectuals from the ivory tower. Let me appreciate all those who have come. And I really want to thank you. I told to somebody outside when I was coming, I said, I didn't see too many vehicles. Also try to get to this place where big men are doing something can be a challenge. But looking around, I think we have Hassan, a fair representation of the tradition and the beneficiaries of those traditions that you represent here in this house. So I want to thank and welcome each and every one of you. I think as I was talking, somebody came to overthrow Isa on his seat, and Isa didn't give his seat any fight. He just decamped to the seat behind. And I don't know that even Labour people can decamp. And he decamped so that Ralph Alek can have a seat next to me, maybe to negotiate whether to bring it back to my party or to make a fruitless effort, if we don't yield fruit, to try to move me to ADC because I'm not going to crash. So, comrade Adegbeshola, you are most welcome. Nice to see you after a long, long time. I was directed by the president of Nigeria Labour Congress in 18, I'm in trouble now, President Hassan Sunmonu, that the former president of Nigeria, President Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, who is the chairman of this occasion, has ordered that he will be away. He will be coming from somewhere in the southeast, and so he may not be here on time. Or he directed, and I think it was almost a decree, he also decreed that before he arrived, I should stand in for him as the chairman of this occasion. I told my Oga, I said, my leader, how can I represent the president, former president? I said, well, that is his decision. I know I didn't have to argue. And I said, on the other hand, overnight, I said, it is even nice, because that president once described me as alternate president, running Nigeria Labour Congress like alternate government. So while his own government is waiting to be inaugurated when he arrives, I can lead the government to preside over this meeting. It's consistent with his own national brokers on who I represent and what NLC represent. I think you should clap for President Olusegun Obasanjo. And the reason the additional reason we should clap for him is that it is not often common that former presidents of his own standing will agree to attend a book presentation of a Nigerian worker who gave him a lot of trouble and mobilized all the strikes and some of the militant attacks, and to agree to chair a book to mark his 85th birthday. So I think my leader Hassan, it's only fair that we invite the crowd again to give President, the chairman of the occasion, President Olusegun Obasanjo, to the sounding round of applause. And I hope that this will be conveyed to him when he comes, so he knows I praise him in his absence, so that he doesn't attack me when he arrives. But that said, let me welcome each and every one of us who has taken time out. Today is a working day to honor our president, Hassan Sunmonu. In particular, this country has all the extremes, which make us, our diversity is beyond ethnic, language, etc., even in height and size. While I was talking, one of the tallest secretary to government that has ever been produced in a democracy walked in, the former secretary to the government of the Federation, under President Muhammadu Buhari, my old friend and brother, boss, Mustafa. So now that our boss is here, we must behave and go on with the business of the day. I feel very excited to be here because one of the challenges we have with the labor movement is that we are not very good in documenting our history. And so we allow other people to write our history. And when founding president, Hassan Sunmonu, decided to write his memoirs, I thought that that is to help the younger ones to reconnect with the past. Because if we forget the condition under which NLC was formed and those struggles that NLC was involved in, the present and future labor leaders would understand where we are coming from. It is important that each and every one of us create the time and have the discipline to document its experiences. I am also trying to do mine, but because I'm lefty, I found that it's quite challenging. Each time I write a page, I remember another thing, etc., etc. But I will try to copy you, as I've done in other places. But now, coming to Hassan, I have not read this book. But the first day, I was a very young man, maybe in my 20s, I believe, early 20s. And there was NLC convention in Kano, and I was a delegate from the Textile Workers Union. I was not the general secretary then. So I got into the conference in Kano, and I saw our president presiding. And at the point I wanted to ease myself, I went out, and I saw another Hassan Sunmonu. And then I ran back again, and I saw that he was still presiding. So I called somebody. I think there's a problem. And he said, what is it? I said, the president of NLC is presiding, and yet I saw him outside. So I don't understand it. He said, how? I said, come. He looked, he said, yes, he's presiding. I said, look at that one. Is that not the same man? That is, I later find out, Comrade Sunmonu's twin brother, completely identical twins. So I have heard of identical twins, but I wish brother was here. You will see the challenge I had that day. I thought I was seeing spirit. So I believe we are celebrating two things today. First is to celebrate the birthday of our founding president, and also to witness the presentation of his work, his memoirs. And I think everybody should take his seat because I'm about to roll out the punishment when the boss has arrived. Then the factory worker working with NEPA, with or without light, is coming in. So I must punish him. So I hereby query you, Ajero, president of NLC, for being late. But Hassan has told me that because of your short leg, we should understand. It takes you time like a tortoise. Even though you knew it for 10 o'clock. But The leg of a tortoise determines the speed. So we make allowance for you. But it's on record that you were queried and that we were also defended on account of your small package. Yeah, every police to say Oshiomhole is short. I say, have you saw Ajero? If you see Ajero, you know I'm a giant. He's the new Pabungo of Nigeria Labour Congress. Some of the young men who know who is Pabungo. So, sir, I'm really excited to be here. And when I saw that President Obasanjo wrote the foreword to the book, I said to myself, what is he likely to say? Because we all know who our former president is. And one of the things I was going to say to him, and if I have the opportunity, I will still say it, is that he was always reminding us that he created Nigeria Labour Congress by reason of the fact that he set up Justice Adebiyi's Commission of Inquiry to look into why we have so many trade unions, etc. And in the end, whether we acknowledge or not, as we have to agree, he signed the decree when he said, I hereby decree as follows, and he signed that there shall only be one Nigeria Labour Congress, and you cannot form another Labour Center. And the whole idea was to avoid too many proliferation of labor unions so that they will have the strength, the muscle to engage the power of capital or to engage those who operate the apparatus of state. I think he deserves the credit for that, even though he did it undemocratically, but the outcome was beautiful. I think he also, before then, we used to have to carry forms to ask workers to sign that they belong to union and authorize the employer to deduct their union dues. I think in that same decree, President Obasanjo's government cited what we now call automatic check-off system. That if you don't want to belong to a trade union, you can only contract out. But if you don't contract out, you are assumed to be a member of a trade union. That for me was something we can acknowledge him for, because as he later told me, he said he did that so that the trade unions should be truly independent, funded by their members, accountable to their members, and taking orders from their members, and not looking at external powers, whether in the East or in the West, because that was at the peak of the Cold War. And he didn't want Nigerian workers to be influenced either by the West or by the East. I'm sure he will still say so today. But Hassan has always reminded him that, yes, he made the decrees, but if the workers were not determined to remain united, the force of law will make it. That is what our history taught us. But the other thing I was going to remind him, and this is secret, nobody should reveal it to him, top secret, was that the same president, when after he was jailed, I believe unfairly, for political reasons by one of the military dictators that succeeded him, himself Abu also enjoyed the power to order detention. He came under detention, and when he came out, I met him at the Hilton, and he said to me, Adams, what happened to labor? I gave you people automatic check-off. I decreed that there should be no proliferation of trade unions. You had all the muscle, and yet labor was silent and allowed General Abacha to run the country like a family estate and subvert human rights, dissolve NLC, and all of the terrible things that the Abacha government did, including the dissolution of the NLC. So he said to me, what happened to labor? Then I said, sir, I was not the president, so when you see the president, ask him. The president was Pascal Pafiao. Okay, I will see him. And that was why when I became NLC president, I made up my mind that Obasanjo's successor will not ask me the question, what happened to labor? I will engage the president. I will provide leadership for the NLC to re-civilianize President Obasanjo, to re-democratize him, to assist him to recognize the difference between a former military head of state who took power by reasons of coup, as compared to the one that is a product of our ballot. And in one of those bitter days when we have fight with him, I had to remind him, we made you president, you didn't make us Nigerian. Presidents will come and go, Nigerians must remain. And I still hold strong to those views. And as you can see, many presidents have come and gone, but Nigeria has remained the same. So on this day, Hassan, I want to pay my personal respect to you, because today I can reveal to people, you know this kind of khaki you used to wear when you were president of NLC from Geneva. I used to carry my small bag like people doing I don't know, you know, people doing a clearing agency, what do they call them? They work in the port. Yeah. And when I come from Kaduna to Ojo-Elegba, I walk to the NLC office, and you are presiding. You talk with so much authority, vehemence, that even if you are a weakler, you will have that feeling of power that you can engage these people and deal with them. And as I listened, a couple of times you reminded us when some people tried to betray. And I have had to say so several times because of my providing leadership for NLC and even now outside NLC. That one of the things you instill in us is to recognize that whether a man chooses to, as a coward, to lie in order to escape from responsibility, when death will come, it will come. Those are those moments when we have to take a decision whether or not to go on strike, in spite of the extra provisions of Decree 2, which says you can be detained without trial. Then you remind us that if we choose to keep quiet or deny who we are, when it is time to die, death will come. But if we choose to fight and we are fell on our feet, the good news is that when we die, we will go to heaven, because we died because of fighting for justice. Those are core values that you taught us, core values that you demonstrated, and you were the greatest teacher by example. In all of those protests, you led from the front. And to see you, see, I'm not going to take others. You must understand, this chairman is different. You are not elected. I am elected as chairman by President Obasanjo. You were appointed as MC, so take your time. In any case, you also radicalized us in Kaduna. You used to invite me to Radio Nigeria Kaduna to go and abuse Texas employers. And then when I get detained, I never hear from you. But let me conclude, because this is an improper intervention. The real chairman will come, and when he comes, this atmosphere will change. So on behalf of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, GCFR, I hereby declare this occasion open, and I will invite the servant of ceremony to take us through all the other processes. And each time I have a feeling, once I beacon, you must respond and take straight orders. This chairman will not take nonsense. And when I do so, you shall have no right to smile or to frown. Exactly the same way as Obasanjo will say, this decision, nobody should celebrate, nobody should frown. If you do so, you will go to our way, where Kukah will teach you what it means to be detained, not the Abuja police station, basement. So thank you very much for this rare honor, and I'm waiting for my own role when it comes. Thank you very much. Ought to be
But I've been wondering, as I said, unlike Comrade Oshiomhole, not even talking about height, no join us. I looked around and I thought, okay, maybe you were Secretary General of the Muslim Students Society at a time in your life. I was also Secretary General, Catholic Secretariat of Nigeria. I was an employer of labor at that time. But then I realized you are a twin, and so am I. But your brother Hussein is alive. My own brother died at birth. You are a Muslim, I'm a Christian. And in a very convoluted environment like Nigeria, where things that don't matter really matter, to be asking myself, and age no join us. So I thought, why don't you go and look for your mate? You are 84 years old, so because I feel like the young boy who did the exam, he came with his result, showed his father. The father looked at the result. You know, mathematics, 80%, geography, 90%, all the way down, history, 15%. The father said, how could you have done so well in ordinary history? You couldn't pass? He said, that is not my fault. Every question the teacher asked happened before I was born. You were born before me, and unfortunately, you are born in a foreign land of Ghana. But when you told me that President Obasanjo was going to chair this event, it excited me. But again, I said, but Obasanjo is a Yoruba man. You are a Yoruba man. You are from Oshiomhole. Obasanjo is from Kukah. Even though his governor told us that Obasanjo's hometown has no name. It's one of those places you just say, if you are passing, you mention it better. But at least we can say it's from Kukah. So I asked myself, Yoruba people will say, why do you have to go to Sokoto when you are looking for a Sokoto? But I thank you because, among other things, the Peter Obasanjo is not here. I eminently qualified to be here because you and I are Hassan. Obasanjo and I are Matthew. So I qualified to stand before the two of you. But let me now get to the very serious issue. And I tried to run through some of the issues. I say, well, biographies of great men and women help to shape history by letting the authors tell the people their own side of the story of their lives, their trials, their failures, their successes, and the lessons that they learned. Autobiographies or biographies serve as a rear mirror to let those who know you see what efforts you made, how difficult decisions were taken, battles fought and lost, how you survived, and how you may wish to be remembered. You chose the right chairman, a man who, despite his many obligations, takes friendship and faithfulness very seriously. President Obasanjo is ubiquitous, and perhaps today the most documented man in living memory. So I imagine he ought to have been here even for the purpose of this, but he has not let anyone tell his own story or interpret his motives or intentions. His views are naturally controversial, but in a good way because they enable others to correct the records by rendering their own accounts. In this way, nations learn how not to repeat the same mistakes. This book, Organize, Don't Agonize, Memoirs of Hassan Sunmonu, African Trade Union icon, is written in plain and very simple English. Officially, it is the mantra, Agonize, Don't Organize, the mantra of the labor movement. They are called to arms. The language in the book is friendly and it actually hugs the reader. The book is accessible. You can read it in a bumpy motorway ride going to Igomu without any problem, or you can read it in the first or business class seat of a plane. The language and the style of narration shows very clearly that the author wrote this book himself. Reading the book is as if you are lying on a couch and listening to the author telling you the story of his life. The book is divided into 20 chapters, and it is made up of, it's 286 pages. It has a foreword written by President Olusegun Obasanjo and an afterword written by Smollett Shitu Alamu. The book marks out the author's early life, his family, his professional career in the labor movement, detailing his ups and downs and the lessons he learned and the lessons he's still learning. The first 4 chapters detail his early life spent between Osogbo and Akiemeshem, I can't pronounce the name well, in Ghana, where he and his twin brother Hussein were born 7th of January 1941, exactly 85 years ago. At least, now you know why the date for this book launch has been fixed for today. Chapters 5 to 12 deal with both himself and his twin brother coming of age, both educationally and professionally. He details his participation and ascent to the leadership at the highest levels, the Nigerian Labour Congress, OATU, the International Labour Organization, while chapters 14 to 16, titled Reminiscence, lets the author look back at his own life. He shares these experiences by developing 3 frames. The first frame talks about his experience nationally, the second frame talks about his continental experiences, and the third frame talks about his global experiences. The author presents the reader with a richly documented account of the world leaders he personally met and interacted with all through his many years as a global labor leader. I do not think that there are many people who have had the luck, including even presidents, who have met the kind of presidents that the author has met in Africa, in Europe, in the United States, and in Latin America. Chapter 17 is devoted to what he calls the pillar behind it all. And you guess right. The only reason why this rugged Sunmonu building has withstood the gales and the harshest elements of hostile weather, why this aeroplane gained altitude despite occasional hostile headwinds, is because built on a rugged foundation, a steady hand that has his back covered. The pillar was designed by an architect called Wasilat, I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it well, his beloved wife of 55 years. The final thoughts on the book are deep. They are nostalgic reflections of what might have been, the road not taken, and the tragedy that has befallen our dear country today. Almost every reader of this book will recognize himself or herself in these reflections because they are about promises made and promises not kept. They are about how a country's future was decapitated by a corrupt elite that seemed to have an insatiable appetite for raw power, an elite that specialized in missed opportunities. It is a summary of why Nigeria's greatness remains a dream deferred. This book is a labor of love. It is full of enthusiasm and passion. It is a book about family, brotherhood, friendship, trust, forgiveness, sacrifice, contentment, success, integrity, ethics, humility, career, and many more. There is something at the very beginning of the book that will put your mind to rest. And Comrade Oshiomhole, you already made reference to that. This is Obasanjo's foreword says that the author is a great man. In his foreword, Obasanjo said, quote, I came to know Hassan fairly well as a reasonable and reliable labor leader. End of quote. So if you know Obasanjo now, and if you wind back to Obasanjo as head of state, military head of state in uniform, for Obasanjo to refer to you as a reasonable and reliable labor leader, this one you go frame and put them for your house. Because when Obasanjo calls you a reasonable man, then as now, it means you are a man who is patient, a man who is obedient, a man who is polite, a conceding gentleman, one who knows your limits and you know when to step forward and when to back down. For any labor leader, therefore, to be called reasonable by Obasanjo, I said, it's a certificate of honor. Going forward, reviewing this book is more of a conversation than an academic exercise. And I've tried to avoid making it an academic exercise because it does not require any textual or ideological criticisms. The book is the story of a man telling his own story in his own words. A man talking about the shoe that he went to the market and bought and has worn the shoe all his life. The man has written about his own life, and there is nothing that you or I can add because he's telling his own story. There is, in the Catholic Church, we have certain kind of devotion. When you enter some of our churches, you will see candles, and they are largely unlit. So you can, if you have a prayer intention, difficult wife, difficult husband, a job you are looking for, whatever it is, you can go and light that candle and then pray. So this small boy had an examination. So he went and lit his candle, knelt down, closed his eyes, and was praying. Then he turned, opened his eyes, and saw that one woman was also praying near his candle. He said, go and light your own. So, go and light your own. So what I'm saying is that what will you disagree with as a critic if a man is telling his own story? That he should have married somebody else and not Wasilat, whom he calls the pillar of his life? Is it your business that he could have had 5 children or 7 children and not 6? That he chose to have a beard, not a beard like Castro, but that he chose to have a pencil beard, which happily he's still wearing? Are you going to quarrel with why he spent 26 years as OATU Secretary General? In all, if you or I or any reader have any areas of a disagreement with the narration in this book, go and write your own book. So in my review, I will try and make just a few points. First, the life of this great man is evidence of what concentration, determination, and purpose can be in one's life. And in a country like Nigeria, where people, no matter how small or big they are, believe that you cannot progress without somebody. This includes whether you want to be permanent secretary, even how to negotiate your retirement, you have to know somebody. Now, this is the story of 2 siblings, twins, born outside Nigeria, sent back home at a tender age to go and grow up with their grandmother in Oshiomhole. Growing up with a grandmother is the best thing that can ever happen to you in your life. Me, I experienced it, so I know what I'm talking about. However, a grandmother in Oshiomhole was not your ordinary grandmother. Because Hassan and Hussein met a brick wall of discipline in their new life. They found their grandmother and her strictness unbearable. And one day, he and his brother sat down and plotted how to scare their grandmother. By using the threat, they sat down, little children agreed among themselves that to get this old woman's attention, they said to her, both of them went, let their grandmother say, Grandma, we have decided to kill ourselves. So, expecting either the grandmother to bow down and say, I beg, don't kill yourself. He said, the grandmother just pointed and said, if you kill yourself, you see that place, that's where I will bury all of you. They now went back to become more disciplined. Now in school, both did well, with Hassan obviously looking like the natural leader. But until Hussein writes his own book, what I read in this book suggests that he looked like the natural leader. Both excelled in their academics, but we must await Hussein's biography. But by Hassan's testimony, he was an A student. They were both voracious readers, as he said on page 36, reading about 30 books every year. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't paginate because I'm not sure what the pages in the book. I only got an electronic copy, so very difficult to identify the pages in the text. But both Hassan and Hussein were literally Siamese twins, never allowing themselves to be separated by education, social life, or geography. Theirs was a brotherhood welded in deep love and sacrifice. One of the most powerful illustrations of the depth of this love of both men which is almost unprecedented, is that both of them made a vow in their teenage years that they will all marry on the same day. As it turned out, shortly after that vow, by the time they turned 20, Hussein had found a lady he wanted to marry. He turned to his brother Hassan and discovered his brother Hassan was still listening to bongo sequence, saying, I'm searching for true love. I'm gonna keep on searching till I find. Hussein waited 1 year. Hassan no see wife. Second year, the brother no see wife. Just ordinary to find girlfriend to marry. But because I guess he had such a solid moral foundation, so he told his brother, Oga, go marry. The brother said no. I'm with the vow we made, I must keep. Then his girlfriend is already in print, so his girlfriend, the girlfriend of Hussein, got pregnant. And Hassan says, see, now go ahead. He said, I'm still waiting. The girl's parents got tired. The girl herself got tired. She can't born her pikin. Hassan still never find. Hussein was still waiting. So he sacrificed his wife-to-be and the son while waiting for his brother. Finally, after 3 years, Hassan said, I don't see something now. Then I was still at. On the 7th of September 1969, both twins married their sweethearts. It's a story of devotion, it's a story of dedication. The second is, Hassan comes across in this book as a fighter. His brother worked hard, and they worked hard, did menial jobs. Both of them loved education. And Hassan, as he was coming of age, when he became Secretary General of the Muslim Student Society, because very clearly it shows evidence of a man who was properly wired morally. So they had this conference in 1961 in Shagamu when he became Secretary General. And then decided, okay, let me take this conference to Oshobo. They were going to have the conference in Oshobo. But he discovered that the mosque in Oshobo had a problem, because the mosque in Oshobo, women know they enter there, go pray. How will we have this conference in Oshobo and women will not be allowed to pray? The Imam was an old man. He didn't have the courage to go and meet the Imam. A typical of Yoruba life, which is for me one of the greatest beauties. Hassan decides to go, not to the chief Imam to beg, but he went to the local traditional ruler, Kabesi Oba Adenle, and pleaded with him, said, help us beg Imam, make he allow women to pray inside the mosque. Kabesi himself, despite being a Christian, persuaded the Imam, and the conference took place. It is, for me, his ability, and I think you mentioned it, that he displayed an early life that enabled him to take different routes in terms of relationships. Third, the twins developed a complex life cutting across various strata of society. Their real lives were, even at an early stage, were complex. Despite being Muslims, they went to a local Anglican church in Oshobo. He and his brother Hussein joined a local theater group and played the parts of Penina's children. Penina's children in the Bible, even though they are Muslims, in a Christian drama. They would later attend Ansarudin Primary School and AME Zion Primary School between Oshobo and Akiem, Asian. Again, as I said, thank God, this is the last time I'm pronouncing this Ghana town. In this way, Comrade Sunmonu comes across as a man whose bones had not been battered by the injuries of ethnic and religious fanaticism. They had both learned to celebrate differences. These diverse religious cultural armor, the hallmark of being Yoruba, will trim them of any excesses and make them all things to all men and all women. It is a great lesson for Nigeria, a great lesson for me being a Nigerian, a great lesson for me being a northern Christian, living with Muslims in northern Nigeria, where things are not the way they ought to be because of religion. And the things the Yorubas have taught us about how to live together. Things that in peripheral Nigeria, in my village, in our communities, we are living together. It is only the toxicity of politics. Politicians have taken religion which they don't believe in. They don't because it's the worst thing. I don't want to say unfortunately. God is so merciful that he has to suspend judgment. But otherwise, now, comrade, my friend here was reminding me of a story I've read about some Muslim judges who are charged with stealing, is it 91 million naira also? Now they say they are going to, if you are a Muslim and you are a judge, they are going to Sharia court to try you now. They say, no, we don't want to be tried in Sharia. You must be tried in Sharia court. Must be tried in Sharia. Nobody, they must be tried in Sharia according to Islamic law. So you cannot want religion by mouth to win election, and you don't want to live it, because that's what is the this is what is destroying Nigeria's greatness. We are still battling it today. Now, one of the things, and the author shows very clearly, Comrade Sunmonu took these qualities of human kindness, honesty, integrity, all the way to his public life. And that is why he was so successful and well respected during his tenure as the president of the Nigerian Labour. He still occupies a place in the pantheon of great Labour leaders in Nigeria and around the world today. Our brother, Dr. Chambers, has already made the point. Comrade Sunmonu's honesty and integrity shown through his entire life and career. Being the narrator, it is not easy to know who inspired whom between himself and Hussein. The book presents them as two people determined to ensure that none succeeded without the other. Growing up in Oshiomhole especially prepared them for surviving in life. Because the author comes across, they seem to have walked the straight path. And there is a little exaggeration that the author makes. Because he said that it was as if they had become businessmen, he and his twin brother. They were still very young. But the way he presented that they had specialized in farming, I don't know what they were farming. They specialized in basket weaving, I don't know who was buying the baskets. They specialized in firewood fetching. These were some of the qualities. Although the author says that when they had to go to Ghana, 2 pounds they couldn't raise, even though they claimed to have been businessmen. But number 4, Comrade Sunmonu comes across as a man of sound moral principles that guided a life of unshakable faith. And the most dramatic part of the book is when he says, it's in Lagos, Labour, he gets a call from the National Security Advisor, General Gozo, who invites him to come to Abuja. He came to Abuja, in Lagos. He now comes to his office and then he makes a call to President Babangida. Babangida, he doesn't know Babangida that well, just spoken to him and speaks to him and hands the phone. And from the other end of the phone, Babangida says, I'd like to make you a minister. And then, of course, the book tells us the story that a man said what no Nigerian whose head they walk. He says, I am not taking the job. And I'm surprised that you went back home and your wife didn't throw you out of the house. Because ordinarily, but also what is interesting in the story is that the man has the confidence to say, because ordinarily you would say to a president, let me go and consult. You go and consult your wife. You consult your friend. Because you know, no Nigerian politician contests for office. People are always, it is your people who are always pushing. I am reluctant now, push, then they push me. Nobody say I want contest. But he didn't say, let me go and consult my wife. Let me consult my constituency. Let me consult. And the great thing is that he and the wife must have been of one thought and one mind. That he knew that the wife would respect his opinion. But he turns the job down. And my conclusion in the review is that precisely because he turned that he had the mental capacity and the moral authority to pick the battles he could win, and that he knew for the things and the principles he stood for, that he couldn't have taken that job and still remain untarnished. And I think this is precisely why many of us are here. Because had you been minister, it's quite likely that many people would probably have remembered you differently. Now, fifth, and perhaps finally, the NLC under Hassan Sunmonu was not free from turbulence. But the turbulence was not dramatic, because under Murtala, the tussle for power had begun. And it's also interesting that even within that tussle, the way the author narrates the story, it's no sign of bitterness. But there were accusations and counter-accusations, the matters go on, accusations that the CIA, KGB is trying to take over labor and so on. But this matter goes on, and I think Comrade Oshiomhole has already made the point about the Justice Adebiyi probe and the final decision by Obasanjo government to ban 11 unions and have only one trade union. On page 70 and 73. The next challenge was the 2-day strike over the issue of minimum wage. Comrade Ajero and Comrade Waba, led by Adams Oshiomhole, minimum wage. And it is interesting. The greatest victory that Comrade Sunmonu won was the raising of minimum wage to 300 naira. Minimum wage became 300 naira, and Nigerian labor people were. It is important that those who are doing things now know how far this journey has come. That 300 naira, although what you could buy then is not the same with now, but this is where we started. And this is why this kind of narration is very important. Now, there are no photocopies of people like Hassan Sunmonu. He left his footprints on the sands of time to be viewed, not to be replicated. A great man whose stature extends across the African continent. He made over 20 presidents within Africa and outside Africa. Reading this book, I wonder what Hussein's biography would look like. It would seem he would have to start writing his biography from the date of their wedding, because before then, almost everywhere they seem to have done things together. Comrade, sir, I want to thank you for the honor of asking me to review the autobiography. I hope I have not disappointed you, but please, let me end by quoting what is clearly the secret of your own life. On page 40 of your book, you said, and I quote, "Anyone who lacks the mental or physical energy to be of service is not fit for the job of a leader. Leadership is an avenue to serve and make society better. People who are put in leadership must see it that way, so that they do not become power drunk after being put in a position of trust by others, or they begin to climb the tree of life beyond the leaves." Such a road will bring one crashing in no time. A leader's humility and gratitude to God and those he serves is the catalyst he or she needs for happiness. End of quote. Very often, many of us have wonderful dreams. We abuse governors, we abuse presidents, we abuse senators, we abuse office holders. And this abuse is always a projection of ourselves, because we are convinced that if we are where they are, we'll be doing this. So you assume, and we always gloss over the sacrifices that people make. I was reading ASU. Said there was this ASU comrade who was always go green. So just like our brother, he was called to Abuja and he got a big job. His comrades were waiting. They didn't hear any more aluta again. So one day they called him. They said, "Oh God, this is our aluta. You enter Abuja no more. We know they hear anything." He said, "You won't understand. You won't understand. In Abuja, when you are eating, we have table manners. You don't talk when you are eating." So of course, it is only good people that can bring happiness to others. Nigerians agree that you indeed brought happiness to so many people, and that is why we are here. I encourage everyone to read this great book, and I ask God to give you many more years. Thank you very much.
And my boss, at
Alaka Bashaw called me, Femi, we're in trouble. So why? So our candidate to take over from Hassan Sunmonu has been disqualified by the state. So how? John Dubry, in order to deprive him of the leadership of NLC, the federal government, military government, got mobile to promote him to a managerial level. And under the trade union law, he became disqualified. Ajib. So went to court. Unfortunately for us, the judge was a friend of Alaka Bashaw in the UK. They were together in the radical movement in the UK, but he had gone to the other side. So on the eve of the election at Enugu, he disqualified our candidate legally. So Aka then called me, Femi, I understand the confidence our comrades have decided on Olusegun to take over from Comrade Sunmonu. But you have an assignment for labor. What's that? I will stay in Lagos because my information is that they want to use the court to get Comrade Adams Oshiomhole's word, an auction order, black market injunction, to stop our candidate so that the candidate of the right will win the election. So your assignment is to pack your wig and gown, go to Enugu, I will stay in Lagos. Because they could either get the order from either of two places. It's okay. But sir, I think I'm too young for this job. Oh. I'm 2 years older than I said, no, Femi, you're a comrade lawyer. We can't just give this assignment to any lawyer in town. Take your wig and go to Enugu. So I went to Enugu. My boss was in Lagos. So, but if it became necessary, phone me, I will rush down. I was in Enugu. I only showed up at the opening of the conference. I couldn't allow people to see me in court. They will know where I was coming from. So I got 2 lawyers in Enugu. A case is likely to be filed. Please, anytime you see the name of Nigerian Labour Congress, please just call me. But go and stay in the court yourself. I said, no, they will find me out. So those 2 lawyers helped me. They were going to the court every hour, unknown to our comment that there was a coup going on. So luckily for me, a case was filed. But again, the chief judge was not in town. And he didn't hand over to anybody to assign the case. But the government got in touch with him. He was outside the country. They flew him in to come and assign the case. So the judge, as a working, assigned the case. Of course, lo and behold, I was present. Yes, this is an ex parte application. What has brought you here, gentlemen? Ex parte is without hearing the other side. I said, my Lord, I've come all the way from Lagos. These guys are working for the government. You cannot grant ex parte, my Lord. Say, no, young man, sit down. I said, no, my Lord, I'm a lawyer, a solicitor and advocate of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. How dare you, sir, to order me to sit down? I have the right to speak like the senior advocate on the other side. I said, senior advocate, I think this young man knows his onions. I'm compelled to listen to him. The senior advocate fought. I am an NLC. No, sir, you can't listen to him. I said, my Lord, you must listen to me. All leaders of Nigerian workers are in Enugu currently. So it is too late in the day to file a motion yesterday to stop them. The conference is on already. He said, are you sure? Yes. We have had the opening ceremony addressed by government and other. 2, our people have booked hotels. 3, Commander Hassan Sunmonu's tenure ends tomorrow morning. If you stop the conference, you will cause such a problem. And my Lord, your name will be written in some terrible record. Say, young man, why are you so bold? I said, my Lord, I forgot to announce. Because in those days, you either use sarcastic or Organise name to intimidate our judge. My Lord, I forgot to announce that I'm holding Alao Akaba Shoro's brief. He then told the other senior, if this young man is representing Akaba Shoro, we have to be very careful, At that stage, the judge said, my short ruling, it is too late in the day to stop the conference of the Nigerian Labour Congress. And that was how we were able to get Comrade Anishiorova installed. But I think from the review and from the keynote speech, one thing we must take home today is that Comrade Hassan Sunmonu has lived a fulfilled life. A life, he's a Muslim, as you have been told. But he has, I don't know whether he has more Christian friends than Muslims. But in the place, because this is very important today, because my people say, when you are afflicted by a calamity, small indignities begin to pile up. Our country today is being ridiculed by hypocrites. One Benjamin Netanyahu. He says, just like Trump, he wants to fight Christian genocide in Nigeria. But that is a big lie. Those who kill in Nigeria do not know whether you're a Muslim or a Christian or even an atheist. But this guy, I want to say here, sir, unlike Comrade Hassan Sunmonu, Netanyahu does not respect the religious belief of everybody. He's a hypocrite. Today, like Trump, is telling lies about our country. And he's using Nigeria as a diversion. It's not a Christian, by the way. Doesn't believe in Jesus Christ, sir. Because in Israel today, there are more Christians than Muslims. The people is killing in Gaza, including Christians. And what do they want to use Gaza for? It's not to expand Israel. The madman in America wants to use Gaza as an estate. I'm not sure you are aware of that. He wants to build an estate there. But what is important is that Mr. Netanyahu has been indicted by the International Court of Justice for genocidal attacks against the Palestinians. Two. He has been declared wanted. There's a warrant of arrest issued by the International Criminal Court. So when he makes any of his pretentious statements about Nigeria, please tell him, mind your own business and go and answer the charges before the International Criminal. Comrade, I thank you, and I thank Elijah in particular, because anybody involved in the struggle will know the role of our women, and that was why Castro said that our wives, women, are the lubricants of the struggle. Elijah, thank you very much
for what you have done in the life of our comrade. Comrade Adams, I think I'm happy you said you are writing your own book. Because when we are gathered here, we must also tell those guys, whether they are here or not, Obasanjo that enacted the 1978 decree merely enacted into law the wishes of Nigerian workers. But the man that enacted the law to unify labor, also in 2005, Congress, enacted a decree to decentralize labor. He also took ASU out of the Nigerian Labour Congress. But happily, ASU is back in the Nigerian Labour Congress as an intellectual wing of the Nigerian Labour Congress. So when we are gathered here and we listen to some of these guys from the other side, either physically or virtually, we must also let them know that this is our day. This is Comrade Hassan Sunmonu's day. And when we are gathered here, we must also challenge the current leaders of labor to emulate Comrade Hassan Sunmonu, so that we can, from here, resolve to mobilize the Nigerian people. Mobilize the Nigerian people to take our country back from them. This is one of the most blessed countries on earth. But as they are talking of 2006 budget, we don't even know which budget, because we are still carrying over 2024 coming, 2025. Now they talk of 2026 budget. 62% of Nigerians have now been classified as, they call it, dimensionally poor. And so when we live here, please ask all our comrades, Ajero, your job is cut out for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Come in. And all the other distinguished men and women here, unfortunately, this does not reflect what you represent and what you taught us. And in order to reflect what I know you stood for, I will use my power as chairman, for which Cyril cannot moderate, to request the lady in front to join us. And I see another lady sitting by Uche. Uche, blessed are thou among women. What to your right, what to your left, both of them should come. And then I see another lady by the column there. You know, whether daughter, whatever, they are ladies. Please come. So that this presentation will reflect those your core value that you taught us. Even before it became fashionable for people to talk of gender equality, you fought for equal pay for men and women, as well as equal opportunity. The donation on behalf of President Obasanjo. Yes, he has to chair. He has to chair the launching. Again, I joined all those who are spoken to congratulate you for particular ones. In the course of the review, because I have not had a point to read it, there was something that Ike mentioned, and I hope people listened, that on May 1st, as we assembled at Eagle Square and across the 36 states of the Federation, which is now a public holiday, May 1st, every year, it wasn't gotten on a platter of gold. Sir, under your leadership, you mobilize us across the country to put pressure on the then government. I believe that was government of Shehu Shagari. The point needs to be made that democracy can work when the citizens organize and mobilize and they stop agonizing. Through organizing, President Shagari, now of blessed memory, vowed to the demand of the Nigeria Labour Congress under the leadership of Hassan Sunmonu to declare May 1st as a public holiday so that Nigeria people can join the rest of working people around the world to celebrate what has now become Workers' Day. I am sure there are many of our younger people now who are under 25, 26, who thought that we just had May 1st as a public holiday. The second, which I got from the review, is that the concept, the idea that the state, one of its primary purpose is to protect the weak against the enormous power of capital. Not just political power, but also the power of capital. And that the state should guarantee a wage below which no employer shall employ an employee. Because whereas the unions, where they exist, can organize strikes and compel and force the hand of employer to grant increments or adjustment, upward adjustment in wages. Those who are in small-scale businesses who don't have voice, government has a duty to protect them by law. And Hassan led that fight. Not through just militant speeches, but through action. Structured action. And the state, not out of love, but in admitting and recognizing the fact that it cannot be business as usual, not under the presidency of Hassan Sunmonu. Again, I think it was Shagari's government. He granted a minimum wage. I think at the first time it was 125 naira a month. And he said, and this was forwarded to the parliament, and it was legislated into law. So democracy can work. The opportunity it offers is the right to organize, to mobilize, to harass, and even to attack without bullets. And so, if you talk of minimum wage today, that foundation was laid under the leadership of our president, Hassan Sunmonu. But again, for the younger people, and even for not so young, some will say, what is 125 naira? No, before I go to 125 naira, before I go further, and this is a message I want to convey to the NLC here. Minimum wage is not supposed to be paid by responsible, well-organized employers. It is to protect those who work in sweatshops. Major employers like federal government, state government, local governments, organized private sector, they are supposed to pay over and above the minimum wage through negotiations. And one example of this, that same year, sir, if you may remember, the government of Kaduna State, under Barade Musa, offered 2 naira extra. The government of Abubakar Rimi in Kano paid the same as PRP in Kaduna, 127 naira. Now, check Google, fast check. At that time, 1 naira, $1 was about 75 or 60 kobo. So 125 naira was more than $200 US. And today, $200 US, what is it? Times 1,450. That is about, see, I wanted to find out whether former governors, ministers can still do arithmetic. And even our elder here. That's about 300,000 naira. And what happened? Sir, in that struggle against the World Bank, the IMF prescription, that the way to compel working people to consume less is to take money from their pocket without being caught as thieves, using what the African man we call invisible juju. Because without touching your pay remains the same. Courtesy of devaluation, structural adjustment program, TINA, there is no alternative, which Aluko properly dismissed as senseless, that everything and anything has alternative, even life. And he said, if you cannot live, you can die. Is that not correct, sir? So, why every worker, and I think as NLC will assist, every worker should try to read this, and then there should be interpretation, a workshop to explain some of the issues here. Is that I listen to Ajero now. I'm sorry, Ajero. You were agonizing. You were agonizing that minimum wage workers are asked to pay taxes. You think if you are crying from here to tomorrow, it will stop? Of course. That is why the idea here, you can find out who made the law, who is wicked, who is kind, who is generous. But the lesson of Sunmonu is, if it is wrong, fight it. If you know it is wrong, fight it, don't lament it. I was not taught to lament. On the floor of the Senate, I always say, I didn't come to Abuja to lament imperfection. And I believe so. Because what the people need is not our tears, it's not emotional statements. Those who do bad things don't do it out of ignorance. And those who enjoy a particular order won't give up. You have to fight them to give up. The other thing you taught us, sir, was that we work better when we stand side by side with the progressive segment of civil society. The other, which I did say, and I'm happy that you are here, that we were charged in Abuja because he joined us to organize a fight. You were charged. Happy birthday to you. May the good Lord bless you. You in plural, you and your wife. May the good Lord bless you. May the good Lord bless Hassan and his wife and 3 brothers. May the good Lord bless you. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray. Jolly good fellow. For he is a jolly good fellow. For he is a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us. Hooray! For he is a jolly good fellow. For he is a jolly good fellow. For he is a jolly good fellow. I say all of us, your children.
My wife and my family. I would like to thank all of you for accepting our invitation to be here. From far and wide, and for those like my good friend, Boss Mustafa, he didn't get the invitation sent to him, but immediately was contacted, he came and met us. We thank you so much. You know, there is a saying that until the lions start to write the true story of hunting, only the story of the hunters will be believed. Until we trade union leaders start to write our own stories of all the struggles we've gone through, of all the lessons we have learned, only others who didn't take part in the struggle with us will be writing, like those hunters writing about the history of hunting, where the lions are the best hunters in the forest. So I would like to thank you, in spite of the short notice that all of you have come here. One of the motivations for me to write this book, I want to confess to you today. My own trade union mentor, the late Comrade Wahab Gulok, may his soul rest in peace, he taught me everything that I needed to know about trade unionism. We have been urging him, Comrade Gudi, write your story, write your story. Comrade Gudi said, I will write. And what happened? He was a Marxist. He was, also close to the Soviet Union at that time. When Soviet Union died, I'm telling you, he had a stroke. He didn't come out of that stroke. He was taken to Moscow. Gave him the best medical attention possible. But eventually, he gave up. It goes about 2009, when Gudi died. So that was why I learned from that lesson that if I did not start to write my own story and the part of the trade union story that Nigerian and African workers and trade union leaders gave me the opportunity, to have, maybe I would also have gone away with all that experience. That was why the motivation to write it. And well, from our youth, my team and I have been very, very close. And I'm happy our reviewer, Bishop Hassan Kukah, did justice to that. As early as the age of 10, Suzanne and I promised each other that we are going to marry the same day. Come rain, come shine. And as Bishop Kukah related here, I wasn't as lucky as Suzanne was in getting steady girlfriend. Don't talk of even fiancé. Immediately I get them, they go away. Or they develop certain character that I find not conceivable for a permanent life partner. That I couldn't live with such a, that's how the partner was waking. And I was praying to God, oh Allah, give me a good wife. In every one of our prayers, Almighty Allah, please give me a good wife. So 5 years after my twin brother, had a child by his fiancée, and that fiancée, after waiting in vain that, the marriage, our marriage will come, as promised, she couldn't wait. And she married somebody else, and my twin brother still insisted that until I was ready, he was not going to get married to anybody. Until eventually, the Almighty Allah answered our prayer. On the 7th of September 1969, we got married together at the same marriage ceremony. We thank you, Almighty Allah. It is not our making. God answered the prayer, and we thank Him for it. Now, a lot of things are happening in Nigeria today. And the challenge is on us, on you in particular, the current trade union leaders. Like Oshiomhole related, one of the things I learned from my trade union mentor, Goodluck, was what he said his father used to tell him. Now, listen, if you tell the truth, you will die. If you lie, you are going to die. So it's always better to tell the truth and die by the truth so that you go direct to paradise and not to hell. And that's the principle I have always kept with. To tell the truth, stay by the truth. 1, you are going to be respected for it. 2, people will take you serious. 3, you are going to have even the support of the Almighty God for telling the truth, speaking the truth, even while it is, Today, trade union leaders are subjected to a lot of pressure. Not that we are also not subjected to pressure in our own time. The May 11 and 12 general strike, the only strike I led in my 6 years as president of NLC, for the minimum wage, May Day as public holiday, and so on and so forth, which has been said here. When that strike was on the 11th, the very first day we started the strike, there was somebody who was sent by the then Minister of Mardiku, was then Minister of what that time? Transport. He sent a contractor to me that half a boatload, ocean-going boatload, half of it, of rice, was waiting for me on condition I called off the strike. So I just went to my office. It was not the time of this modern telephone. I went to my office to call the police. When the man ran from the 3rd floor, within 10 seconds, he disappeared from NLC secretariat in Lagos that time. Because they thought I could be bought by commodity. Because rice was then a very serious, essential commodity. Now, can you imagine, later on hindsight, I said, look, if I had succumbed to that, I would never have become the Secretary General of the Organization of African Trade Union Unity. That's what a lot of people don't know. God. Glory for us. there is victory for us. In the struggle for Africa, there is victory for us. Forward ever, backward never. In the struggle for Africa, there is victory. Continue. Can never be reversed. The chairman of the occasion is out here. Please be seated. Now let me apologize for keeping you waiting. I started the morning in Owerri. From Owerri, I went to Amici. From Amici, I went to Oka. And from Oka, I'm here in Abuja. It has been a long day. But it is very important that I should be here. One, because I don't want Adam Oshiomhole to enjoy being chairman and getting away with it. If I let him get away with it, he will think that that is what life is. And life is when you lend something, when you borrow something, when the owner wants to take it back, he must be able to take it back. Your chairmanship is borrowed. And now the owner has come. Thank you very much for standing in. I believe if we are talking of labor in Nigeria, Umodu will be the first, the foundation. And labor leader number one. And nobody can take that away from him. But when it is labor, after Modu, it is the man we are celebrating today, Hassan Sunmonu. And I have a few stories to tell about him, which I believe I should tell, because I may not have any other occasion to tell it. After you remember, when Wabi Goodluck was leading one of the two major labor NLC. Yes. Then Adebola, or what is the name of it? Yes. Now, those were the two leaders. And, Okay. And then what happened? These two labor organizations are Nigerian labor organizations, but they were not being financed or funded by Nigeria. I don't know if you know that, but that was the reality. One was being financed by KGB. That is true. And the other one was being financed by CIA. That was the truth. I think Hassan belonged to the one being financed by KGB. That's the truth, because you were with Wahab Goodluck. And Wahab Goodluck was being financed by KGB. And then
I came on the scene. I needed for Nigeria a Nigerian labor union organized by Nigeria, controlled by Nigeria, financed by Nigeria. So I decided there was going to be a labor union reform. And I think the man I put in charge is Justice Adebi, that name.
Okay. Commission of Inquiry. Adebi Commission of Inquiry.
No, commission is not.
August.
Yeah, well, Justice Adebi. And Hassan was one of those who was in the forefront to ask, what do I know about labor that I'm asking for reform? What is my business? And of course, I took it, I don't know anything about labor, but I know that I wanted a Nigerian labor organization organized by Nigeria, headed by Nigeria, and funded by Nigeria. And Justice Adebi finished his job. And when Justice Adebi finished his job, and we reform the labor and pass the law establishing NLC, what happened? Without government hand, they elected their leader, and Hassan became the first leader they elected. I don't know how Hassan felt at that time, but I felt comfortable. One, because I have had a short spell in the Ministry of Works, where Hassan was working. So I had known him in the Ministry of Works. But now that he has become the leader of the trade union, I needed him. He needed me. It now remains, how do we work together? So, if Hassan is seen as being too close to me, it will be seen as a sellout. And he will not enjoy the confidence of the union and the members. So I said to Hassan, you know, I need you, you need me. We have to succeed together. So when I called you and we hold meeting, if it is necessary, after we have held our meeting, you go out and abuse me. Because if you do not go out and abuse me, you will be seen as being friendly with me, which is not going to allow you to do the work that I want you to do. But for that period, there was comparative peace, relative peace, rather. There was relative peace. And he managed his own side. I managed my own side, and the labor union started going from strength to strength. But then it was Nigerian Labor Union, organized by Nigerians, headed by Nigerians, and funded by Nigerians. We have the compulsory, well, I don't know what to call it, but it means that money will come into the purse of the union directly, and it's compulsory. And that got out KGB and CIA from our labor union. Well, that's not all for this young man. Madam, I think he's a young man. Yeah. Now, he, as I said, our model of the foundation of labor in this country. But Hassan was the one who took labor beyond the Nigerian border. He took it to Africa. In meantime, Nigerian labor was out in front as Africa. And you did that job very well when you were based in Ghana, Accra, Ghana. I know you did because we were in contact. And of course, having taken labor beyond Nigeria to Africa, as I said, to take it beyond Africa to the world. And we appreciate your effort. Now, when Hassan then asked me to write a foreword for his book, I said I will write it as I really feel. So I wrote it and sent it to him. I thought he would tear it and throw it away, but he did not. He then called me and said, well, you've written something good. I said, well, I wrote what I believe you deserve. And of course, what I wrote is what you deserve. Once again, thank you. And thank you for bearing with me for being late. No. Well, he comes as what? What has he come now? Now. No, but I didn't you didn't take over. Adam, you didn't take over.
No, you appointed me to act, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I didn't want you to enjoy it too much. Otherwise you will like to keep it.
Well, I take my own night to give a vote of thanks. Because, Mr. President, sir, in your absence, I said, you've done a great honor as a former president of this country to accept to chair a book presentation and a birthday ceremony of a Nigerian worker who rose to become the president of Nigeria. And I acknowledge the point you made about restructuring the unions under Justice Adebiyi and introducing automatic checkoff so that the union will be funded by its members. And if they make mistake, it will be mistake of their head, not of KGB or CIA. And you just came back to rehearse exactly the same thing. But we did say, sir, that if workers were not determined to unite, the force of a decree will not make it possible. We like to still think that what you did was to enhance what was in our inner intention. But you have actually written your name in gold by enacting that decree, without which today we say to people that if there is one non-governmental organization that doesn't need headlines to say to Europe or US for handout, that can speak for workers and funded by workers and accountable to workers, it is NLC. And God used you, sir, to make that law. And when I saw you coming in, I was struggling to catch up, sir. I think you give us inspiration that whatever you do, I like to be doing it. I have the kind of energy. The way you were running it, I was not. So God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, now whatever I do, you will want to be doing. I will not tell him all that I do. Because if I tell him all that I do, he will like to steal all that I do and do. And then what I do then will cease to be what I do. It will be what he does. Once again, thank you very much, and thank you for standing and coming. Arriba. Where are the other people? Also.